The penultimate round of the 2021 Finstown Castle Hotel Formula Boss Ireland Championship was held on the 1.85 km national circuit at Mondello Park in the early afternoon of the 3rd of October. With drop scores considered, Sylvie Mullins only needed a point to make the overall championship a certainty from Fergus Faherty, who needed wins from the final two rounds. In theory, any of the top 11 could make the podium over the final two races.
Paul O'Connell would be missing on the day as he was upholding Formula Boss Ireland honour in a Boss GP race at Monza. Eamon Matheson had a lead to defend in the Boss 1 category, and if Fergus Faherty was unlikely to take the overall championship, he had a strong lead in the Boss 2 category. We hadn't seen Mark Dempsey since the start of the year, so it was great to see him back, with plans for next year.
It was nice to do the last race of the year, and hopefully now, back now in April, all going well there. Yeah, the car seems to go well at the moment anyway. Just a bit of an issue this morning. I spun off there on the positive flag there at about 4 or 5 laps into it there. The track was so greasy out the country, nothing I could do, but I just went down and ring there, so I kind of lost a bit of confidence then. But we'll give it a lash of the race now. I'm not happy with the car, going a lot better too, so just try and pass all these lads in front of me now is another thing now. There's 200 horsepower more than me now, so I need a breath of engine, I think, as well, you know, so see what happens.
Hopefully 2 races would help him build his confidence again.
Oh yeah, I'm delighted to be back too, great. I'm really excited all week even just to get back at it again, you know, just to see everyone again there, just getting a run here before the year's out, you know.
Tom Gaughran had an off in the last race meeting, so it was good to see him back with the Radical.
No, back on track. In fairness, the throttle blipper stuck, so when I was coming down the gears it was still giving it full revs, and so it's life. It was a simple fix, but I had to change a bit of the bodywork, so now all back and running, it's running okay. So yeah, happy enough.
He didn't have a perfect qualifying session and actually had to come into the garages in the middle.
When I left and went out, I'd got a limiter of about 5,500 revs. So I didn't know whether it was going to clear or not, but I come back in, Joe went on it with a laptop, don't know what he cleared. So in fairness, when I went out, I got about 2 laps to get the tyres up temperature, and then probably 3 or 4 laps before it went red. So look, okay, not bad, so happy enough.
The big excitement in the Gaughran stable though was the World Series Dallara that Aaron would be driving in these beautiful Lotus colours. This car is similar to the ex-Paul O'Connell car that Gerard O'Connell was driving earlier this season. He looked to be taking his time to bed himself into the potentially very quick 4-litre car, and was finding his pace in the middle of the qualifying session after putting himself in 4th place on the grid. Then on lap 10, while we were tracking Tony Greenan, he entered the S's, and we could just hear him going across the gravel track. Along with the marshals, we were very glad to see him emerge from the car in one piece. This would put a stop to the qualifying session. His father Tom explained what had happened.
It was, mechanical failure, so it's a shame because we tested it on Friday. The car that way went well. We had a problem with the compressor for the gearbox, which Brendan got a new one. So it's a shame that didn't rear its ugly head on Friday. So look, today was just a test day for it anyway to get it ready for next year. So look, it'll be back and it'll be strong. So that's the way it'll go.
Aaron gives us his own account of what happened.
We were unlucky with the throttle. Throttle just stuck open coming up into the start of the S's, so to be fair I locked up, tried to switch it off, tried to get it to turn, got it to start turning into the corner, but we were just getting shoved that far forward, couldn't make it. So it's unfortunate. I think the lads have figured what the problem is, and I think what they're saying is they've never seen that part mechanically fail on any car before. So look, it's a bit of unluck, but the main thing is we're alright.
As you can see, he had done very well to hit the tyres where they were not reinforced by the barrier and the bank. But he had picked up a knock to his hand.
I wasn't giving up, I was trying to get it turned in, so to be fair, I didn't want to get, it's not even mine, so I wasn't giving up. But no, to be fair, I didn't let go till I was in anyway, so it was just a shunt off the wheel. So look, it's not too bad, we'll get there.
A bit of a knock to his confidence after a great first season in Boss racing. Hopefully we'll see him out in this car next year. Hopefully Shane Rabbitt will be fit for the race after a few little issues during qualifying.
We had a problem with the gear lever this morning, or the gear cable, and a small little sleeve pushed forward on it, and when I went down the gear it bent the cable, so I couldn't get any gear, so pulled back in mid-qualifying. The lads kind of did a bit of butchering on it, got it back together, and we got back out again for a lap or two, but we didn't get any real times in, so we're starting towards the back of the grid again.
He might be down the grid a bit, but he was giving it loads during the qualifying session.
Probably, yeah, I think the tyres were still too cold, but I wanted to get going, but yeah, there was no grip in them at that moment in time, and they were starting to come to life, and then the red flag came out just as I was about to finish a half decent lap, so I only got two terrible laps in really, so starting 11th towards the back of the grid and see what we can do and see if we have a bit of fun.
Michael Connolly had also had an action-packed session, locking up here coming into the S's.
Funny, I thought I actually had a puncture, but the brake balance bar had actually stuck a little bit, so I've been able to loosen up and wind it a bit to the front, so should solve it. But yeah, and the S's got a bit out of shape, and I had to thread the needle around the very outside before the kitty litter, but got away with it.
His car was showing a few marks from how close the racing has been over the last few weekends.
Yeah, sure, racing's rubbing. Yeah, I had a few little bumps the last race with Stephen Eamon came together. Looking at it afterwards, actually it was a case of nothing. We were both on a line that we were going to meet, and it was a very minor little bump, but it just tore my tyre. So I came in and stuck on another one and went out. It was only 13 psi in that tyre, a bit all over the place. But look, it's good fun.
Roland Doherty was making sure he had the right pressures in his tyres and was right up there with Michael Roche.
Sure, I'm happy. Michael mightn't be, but yeah, happy enough. Yeah, we made a few changes to the car during the week there, changed a bit of gearing and stuff, so it's made a good difference to the car now in fairness. So
you can literally see him getting quicker every weekend. Had he ambitions for the day?
Ambitions for the day. I don't know if we can stay where we are now. We'll be happy. You never know what happens out there. So we'll push hard and see what happens. Hope for the best.
Michael Roche was a bit disappointed with 7th on the grid. It had been quite an interrupted session.
A bit further back today now, just a bit of scrappy qualifying there. But as he was saying, for it's difficult to get a clear lap. Some of the guys are really trying as well. I don't think it'll make much difference I had to get a clear lap or not. But happy enough again, usual. I'm still going and not getting trouble, and we'll see where the race goes. Maybe with the rain will be up, but it doesn't look like it at the moment.
Michael often hopes for a wet race to equalise the power of the cars, but even on a showery day, they just weren't happening at the right time for him. I wondered if the shorter track suited his car or not.
And I do actually like the international track more. There's a nice bit more driving in it, but this is grand too. But definitely in qualifying it's difficult to get a clear lap. That's the same for everybody. So anywhere in the race is good, isn't it?
Eamon Matheson was 6th in qualifying, which was the highest placed sports car. He has a good chance of taking the Boss 1 championship for over 2 litre cars. Tony Greenan has been doing some practice in the F3 Dallara, and it's paying dividends.
Yeah, I done well in qualifying. I had 51.4 I think, which any other day probably would have been pole position, but I think Sylvie there got 49 dead or something like that, so congratulations to him on the new lap record. Unbelievable time.
The time of Sylvie's was a new fastest for Boss Racing, but would have to be done during the race for it to stand in the record books. It was a significant day for Tony, and he was hoping for some good luck to come from it.
It's actually my birthday today, so it would be brilliant if we could get on the podium anyway. Top 3 position I would be very happy with.
Talking about luck, everything had finally gone well for Jonathan Fildes in a qualifying session, and he was on the front row of the grid in 2nd place beside Sylvie Mullins. Down in the garage, it looked like there was a serious problem in the transmission, and it looked like he wouldn't be able to take up that excellent position. Sylvie is also very hands-on with his car, but despite being on pole, I think I could detect a little bit of apprehension ahead of the race.
We're on pole, yeah. I need to finish somewhere. So look, depending on the weather now, it's dry at the minute, but it's looking like a little bit of rain for 2 o'clock. So yeah, we'll get going and get the head down and see how we go. Basically.
He explained what he needed to take the championship.
Finish. I think I need a point, basically. So look, if it's raining for the next race, so be it.
I think it's promised dry this evening, so for the last race around 4:30, definitely dry. It's showing a little bit of rain at 2 o'clock here, so we mightn't get it.
This was our grid for round 11.
Unfortunately, Jonathan Fildes wouldn't make it to the track, and neither would Aaron Gaughran after his off during qualifying. So Eamon Matheson on the third row of the grid would have a clear view ahead of him.
Rain that had threatened for the race hadn't materialised, and the track was actually dry. This was a healthy grid of Formula Boss Ireland cars at the final Irish Championship circuit race meeting of the year, with rumours of more to join next season. The race starts with those 2 cars missing from the front rows. Sylvie Mullins is stranded at the start, so Tony Greenan moves across into the space in front of Eamon Matheson. Tony leads the race on his birthday into the first corner. Michael Roche is second. Fergus Faherty is third. If he could win this race and Sylvie Mullins doesn't score, he could keep his championship alive. Roland Doherty and Shane Rabbitt pass Eamon Matheson up to 4th and 5th. Mark Dempsey also seems to have had trouble getting off the start and is caught behind one of the officials' cars. Back at the start, the recovery truck pulls in front of Sylvie Mullins. His crew are already behind him in order to try and get the Gould going. Meanwhile, Tony Greenan continues to lead Michael Roche and Fergus Faherty. Roland Doherty is 4th, but Shane Rabbitt has gone missing. Eamon Matheson 5th, Michael Connolly 6th, Daniel Faherty 7th, Tom Gaughran 8th. I think that was Shane Rabbitt stranded on the grass behind him, and there goes the red flag. With Shane off and Sylvie stranded on the grid, that race couldn't have continued. The rescue vehicle pulls away. His crew must have restarted the Judd. 2 of them sprint to the pit exit with the battery trolley. Out the country, the marshals come to Shane Rabbitt's assistance. Mullins drives to the exit of the pit lane. I assume he's expecting to have to start from there. His crew are getting a serious workout this afternoon. Shane Rabbitt is towed back to the garages. The car looks to be in good condition. I expect that's a mechanical failure. Back at the start line, Mullins drives out onto the track again and is pushed back into position for another set of warm-up laps. These are green flagged, and the Gould sounds to be on full song. Down the pit lane we see that recovery vehicle has hauled Shane Rabbitt back to his garage. Sylvie leads them out for 2 further warm-up laps on the short national track. The restart will also give Mark Dempsey a second chance to get away cleanly. Shane Rabbitt will start from the pit lane. The 5-second board is withdrawn. And they're off again. This time Sylvie Mullins gets a much better start. Tony Greenan moving to block Eamon Matheson, and Shane gets away. Mullins leads. Tony Greenan 2nd. Michael Roche up to 3rd. Michael Connolly 4th. Fergus Faherty 5th. Eamon Matheson 6th. And Doherty challenging Tom Gaughran for 7th. Daniel Faherty 9th, Mark Dempsey 10th, and Shane Rabbitt in 11th. Sylvie Mullins leads back in towards the paddock. Tony Greenan staying with him. Michael Roche close behind. Michael Connolly's had a good start in 4th. This isn't going so well for Fergus Faherty. Gaughran has held off Doherty. Eamon Matheson holds off Daniel Faherty. Shane Rabbitt has passed Mark Dempsey into the top 10. Greenan close to Mullins as they enter the main straight, but this is where the Gould can really make some ground. Fergus Faherty in the background challenging Michael Connolly for 4th, but the sports car is also very strong on the straight. Roland Doherty is ahead of Tom Gaughran. The Turbo Radical is another of the great dragsters here, as is Eamon Matheson there behind Daniel Faherty. Shane Rabbitt's Formula Renault looks to be going well now, as is the OMS of Mark Dempsey. Coming out of turn 1, Sylvie Mullins looks like he has clear road to claim the championship in style. Michael Roche is starting to put pressure on Tony Greenan. Fergus Faherty maintains pressure on Michael Connolly. Roland Doherty has held his position against Tom Gaughran but will need to make ground on the corners if he wants to hold on to it. Shane Rabbitt is looking to reel in Eamon Matheson. Mullins continues to make ground. Michael Roche is fully focused on Tony Greenan, who still likes to push really deep in the S's as he did in his Radical before. Eamon Matheson in the middle of the road in the powerful Jade. Shane Rabbitt looks very confident pushing wide as he enters the corner. The F1 sound of the Judd and the Gould down the main straight.
The Delaras of Greenan and Roche singing in unison. Sports car lead single-seater in the Connolly Faherty dice. Single-seater lead sports car for Doherty and Gaughran. Daniel Faherty, Eamon Matheson and Shane Rabbitt all have a bit of space around them. But there's no space between Michael Roche and Tony Greenan. Michael has gone up the inside to take second place. Fighting for 6th place, Tom Gaughran has made a similar manoeuvre, but Roland Doherty holds his nerve on the outside line. Entering the S's, Tony Greenan has a look around the outside, fighting back against Roche. Sylvie Mullins is way out in front, but Tony Greenan is giving it loads sideways on the curbs there, coming onto the main straight. And look behind them, Fergus Faherty's just gone up the inside of Michael Connolly. There's action everywhere in this boss race. His brother Daniel has a look up the inside of Tom Gaughran's Radical, but he doesn't have the power for the straight. Mullins, who set a record boss time in qualifying, must be balancing his desire for a record in the race with his need to finish for the championship. Michael Roche has a bit of space from Tony Greenan now after Tony's wild moment on the curbs at the start of the straight. Fergus Faherty, now clear of Connolly, may wish to join their party. Roland Doherty looks to have a little bit of clearance now from Tom Gaughran, and Daniel Faherty is closing on the Radical, and Shane Rabbitt looks to be making progress with Eamon Matheson. Roche still with a bit of an advantage over 3rd place. Fergus Faherty is on his way, and Michael Connolly locking up. Maybe he still has some work to do on the brake balance there. And Daniel Faherty is definitely closing on Tom Gaughran. The end of lap 4, and suddenly Sylvie Mullins' car is slowing. He crawls across the line. Roche and Greenan are closing rapidly. Look in the distance at the final corner, Daniel Faherty has passed Tom Gaughran. And look, Shane Rabbitt is up to 9th ahead of Eamon Matheson. Mullins looks down at his dials through turn 1. It sounds like the engine is only at half revs. Roche and Greenan's battle could be for the lead again. And for Fergus Faherty, who's been catching them, his championship hopes are still just about alive. Mark Dempsey crosses the line 11th. Coming in from the country, Michael Roche is our new race leader, with Tony Greenan challenging in 2nd. And Fergus Faherty looks set to pass the Aileen Gould. Onto the straight at the end of lap 6. Tony Greenan comes out on a wide line and gets his nose ahead of Michael Roche's rear wheels. This is the battle to lead the race. Fergus Faherty now in 3rd. Michael Connolly going past Sylvie Mullins, still slowing. Tom Gaughran is fighting back against Daniel Faherty. He's going up the inside along the pit wall there. Shane Rabbitt has made a big distance ahead of Eamon Matheson as they go on to lap 6. A little wriggle from the back end of Tony Greenan's Delara as he challenges Michael Roche. This dicing will slow them ahead of Fergus Faherty. Michael Connolly in the Radical in 4th, and Roland Doherty now up to 5th ahead of Sylvie Mullins. He's still going though. Behind him, Daniel Faherty has a look up the inside of Tom Gaughran. At the last race meeting, Michael Roche put up a great defence against Sylvie Mullins and Paul O'Connell. Tony Greenan has his work cut out. We look behind Connolly and Doherty to see that Tom Gaughran is coming up the inside of Sylvie Mullins now, with Daniel Faherty close behind. And Shane Rabbitt is catching this group. Eamon Matheson is 9th. At the end of lap 6, Tony Greenan tucks in really tight behind Michael Roche. This could be a big challenge. The slightest slip from Michael and Tony will have him. Look at that blue Predator in the background. I think Daniel Faherty lost a bit of ground from Tom Gaughran while negotiating Sylvie Mullins. He and Shane Rabbitt have now passed the championship leader. Will Matheson catch him too? A bit of a slide there from Tom just reminds you that these guys are on the limit all the time. Daniel closes in a bit and Shane is right there with them too. Greenan keeping that high pressure on Michael Roche as they come up to lap Mark Dempsey. Michael probably lost a little bit of speed behind Dempsey there coming onto the straight, but he manages to keep Tony Greenan boxed in behind the OMS. Fergus Faherty all the time primed to pick up the pieces if anything goes wrong ahead. Tony sticking to Michael like a magnet through here. Back on the main straight, and pressure from Daniel Faherty has pushed Tom Gaughran right out onto the curbs. They're neck and neck at the start of the straight, but the Radical has the power to get out of trouble. This has allowed Shane to catch right up. This is big effort from Tony Greenan, who's only been racing in single-seaters for a couple of weekends, whereas this is not Michael Roche's first rodeo. Eamon Matheson has now passed Mullins, putting him all the way back to 10th now. But if he can finish at all, he'll win the championship. Shane Rabbitt has closed up enough that Daniel will now have to defend as he attacks Tom Gaughran. Going on to lap 8, and Tony draws up alongside Michael's rear wheel again. But Fergus Faherty is no longer behind them. That's Mark Dempsey getting the blue flag to let Michael Connolly through. He's now 3rd. Roland Doherty is now 4th. Back behind Tom Gaughran in 5th, we see that Shane Rabbitt is now up to 6th ahead of Daniel Faherty. Tony Greenan has a look around Michael Roche on turn 1. He tucks in behind again. Back at the main straight, we see that Sylvie Mullins has caught back up with Eamon Matheson. Could the Gould's issue have cleared? As Michael Roche and Tony Greenan come in from the country almost side by side, we notice that Fergus Faherty is stranded on the grass behind them. His race is over, and that means the championship too. Michael Connolly would be delighted with the podium finish. Roland Doherty comes in with the back end looking quite lively, and Mark Dempsey's car continues to go well. That must be very disappointing for Fergus Faherty. It was only an outside chance today, after mechanical issues in other races. His brother Daniel continues, but it's Shane Rabbitt now who continues to harass Tom Gaughran. Completing lap 9, Michael Roche comes in tight to the pit wall, and Tony tucks in right behind him. Coming out of turn 2, Michael opens his DRS to use every last bit of performance down the straight that follows. 3rd would be a personal best from Michael Connolly in Boss this year, and 4th would be Roland Doherty's best finish in his first season of the series. Mark Dempsey may not have the performance of some of the other cars, but he certainly seems to have reliability. Tom Gaughran still has Shane Rabbitt and Daniel Faherty right behind him. And here comes Mullins behind, ahead of Eamon Matheson again. Now with Fergus Faherty stopped, he doesn't need to finish, the car is working perfectly. I wonder, could Roland Doherty challenge Michael Connolly's 3rd place? But a first 4th would be worth settling for. Fergus Faherty leaves the track with the marshals as Roche continues to fend off Greenan. Remember, that 2nd place car won the championship in the hands of Cian Carey last year. But this year's award will go to the more temperamental but high-powered Gould of Sylvie Mullins. Onto the start-finish straight for the 10th time. There's a little weave out of Tony Greenan. He uses all of the curb and he draws right up alongside Michael Roche. But Michael has that critical inside line. Meanwhile, Gaughran, Rabbitt and Daniel Faherty are coming up to lap Mark Dempsey, while Mullins catches all of them. It looks like Shane Rabbitt was able to make the most of the situation. He emerges ahead of Tom Gaughran down the straight. But once again, the power of the Radical is able to get Tom out of trouble. Looks like Roche and Greenan have slowed for a yellow flag out the country. But they return to full pace coming out of the S's. Michael Connolly and Roland Doherty on course for great results. And Shane Rabbitt in the diminutive Formula Renault comes in leading Sylvie Mullins and Daniel Faherty, who have passed Tom Gaughran. 9th placed Eamon Matheson goes on to start lap 11 as Michael Roche and Tony Greenan come to complete it. And Tony is right in behind Michael again. Greenan is tempted by the gap to the left of Roche. This battle will go the full distance. I think Doherty has made some ground on Connolly. Shane Rabbitt will have to let Sylvie Mullins go and take his 5th place. But this has been a great drive for the Formula Renault driver, and Daniel Faherty has found himself in close competition again. Mark Dempsey still going well. The leaders come out of the yellow flag area and continue at race pace again. But the safety car is coming out to put the whole track under yellows, so positions will hold as they are. The safety car board is displayed for Michael Connolly and Roland Doherty, 3rd and 4th. And there's Sylvie Mullins, amazingly back up to 5th. I think that's a reprieve for Michael Roche. Tony Greenan was really twisting up the pressure. At turn 2, the safety car has started to collect them all behind. As they come around to complete lap 14 under the safety car, the checkered flag comes out. Michael Roche wins from Tony Greenan. Michael Connolly 3rd. Roland Doherty 4th. Sylvie Mullins 5th. Shane Rabbitt 6th. Daniel Faherty 7th. Tom Gaughran 8th. Eamon Matheson will be 9th. And Mark Dempsey coming to the line now is 10th, but a lap down. Back at the garages, Sylvie Mullins had been put through such an ordeal by his car, I don't think he was ready to celebrate the championship yet.
Championship's wrapped up. Look, that's done anyway. Had problems, always problems. We were going great for 3 laps, and then next thing it just died. And I just cruised around. Well, it wouldn't pass 4,000 reps for me. It's like a fuel pump or fuel issue or something. And I kept going around and said, right, I'll try and get my pints anyway. Next thing it kicked in again, I did 2 to 3 laps again, and next thing it died again. Then the red flag came out, so I was going for, and the first 3 probably laps where the track was a little bit damp, but second 3 was good and dry. So we're trying to go for the lap record. We needed another lap or 2, and we would have probably got it.
The other championship contender, Fergus Faherty, revealed what put him out of the action.
Yeah, broken throttle cable there a few laps to go. Come around the second corner, down into the dog leg, pressed the throttle, nothing happening, and didn't know what it was. Then the car just went into emergency mode because it had no throttle position sensor. I was pressing the throttle, but it wasn't getting the same reaction back on the other sensors, so it switched off.
Third place Michael Connolly was delighted how the race had turned out.
Yeah, it was great fun, got a good start, and I was, just in front of Fergus, and we had a great little tussle for a while. Then he got up the inside of me into the last bend, and unfortunately he pulled in, I think the throttle cable broke or something, but that was really enjoyable. But Sylvie got back as well, so between everything happening, I finished 3rd. So first podium in Boss, so I was delighted. Yeah.
Tony Greenan may have had the race of his life on his birthday, but received no gift from Michael Roche.
Yeah, that was a good race with Mick Roche. I think something happened to Sylvie, and Sylvie went off, so it was my own fault. I let Mick Roche down the inside of me, and fair play to Mick, he drove defensively and kept me well behind him. Yeah, couldn't get past him at all. So I'll not be making that mistake again.
It's been some time since Michael Roche took the checkered flag.
It's been a while. Actually, last time I won it was, I think this class was known as Libra. So, showed me age. Yeah, it's nice to get the win for a change.
And you had a good battle with Tony Greenan as well.
Yeah, very good. Now, he had me under pressure there for a lot of times, but I managed to hold him off anyway. So, lucky enough. And the safety car came out at the right time then for me, gave me a bit of a break. Absolutely. So, we'll have another cut out now in the afternoon.
Yeah, you never know, we might get your red one then.
I might be giving out about that now, but I know, we'll see. I don't mind one way or another, and I'm happy enough for the day. As long as I get it finished now, I'll be happy.
Great way to finish the year.
Yeah, good, yeah. Keep me going for the winter, and I'll get a few months out of this.